Oh my god.
I'm fucking invincible!
What?
That scav is invincible!
Excuse me? Yeah, that doesn't seem right, does it? Last week on the channel, I covered the MCX Spear, a really expensive gun, but the performance was incredibly solid, so I ended up coming to the conclusion that it was probably worth using if you had the money to run it. And in the comments section of that video, I had someone talking about the Mutant and the RD704, and they were talking about how bad they were. And I'd heard that sentiment quite a few times before, but I hadn't really used the weapons yet. So I gave them a shot this week, and, well, it's been a roller coaster to say the least. I started off assuming that they weren't going to be nearly as bad as people thought they were going to be. Then stuff like this happened. Oh,
Another
no.
one. Shoot.
Did he die? He went back
No,
down.
It's coming up, shoot him!
What the
Okay, my
fuck?
half of the body is blacked out.
Half of his body's blacked out. How did he live that? But then I came to a very unfortunate conclusion that wasted a lot of my time and made me feel really stupid. Or really, it shouldn't have made me feel really stupid. It should have made me feel frustrated at Battlestate for their ever-consistent inability to make their game function. So what actually ended up happening here is that the EOTech hybrid sight is just entirely broken right now. Apparently, this is somewhat well known in the community. I didn't know it, and so I was trying to use this scope just because I had one in my inventory, and, well, just take a look. Not only is the visual recoil noticeably worse than when using any other sight, but it seems like the sight is placed extremely high on the weapon, despite the fact that it shouldn't be any higher up than the normal hybrid sight. At least I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here. But the case in point is that you should not under any circumstances use this scope because it is horrifically bad and will ruin any gun you put it on. It's not a Mutant exclusive issue. So after I figured out the sight was bugged, I was like, well, now I have to give the gun another shot. And after seeing the recoil pattern, I was like, well, it's not that bad. And I had a few decent rounds, but at the end of the day, we ended up right back where we started. Yes, to spoil the entire video, this gun is absolutely not worth it, is a complete scam, and in my opinion, desperately needs a buff because, well, it's just kinda bad. I did want to sort of debunk some of the things that I've been seeing around because after using it, I believed them myself and decided to actually test it instead of just going off of anecdotes. And I can tell you that from my own testing, it seems like the ammo is working fine, or at least how it should. I had this moment right here, which looks pretty damning at face value. It looks like this guy just absorbed a shitload of shots. At the end of round screen, I did a ton of damage. I had like 13 hits, it'll be on screen now, and one of the things that I killed in that round was a scav, and I headshot the scav, so a lot of that damage wasn't going there, and I killed them with a stomach shot, which kind of opens up to exactly what was probably going on here, but regardless, after this, I was like, something has to be broken, so I jumped into an offline raid with my friend Bundy. Shoutouts to him for letting me shoot him in the chest several times, and the conclusions that we drew were, yeah, it seems to be working just fine. It reliably went through the class 3 armor that this guy was wearing. It didn't reliably go through class 5 armor and took a fair few shots, but after it did take a fair few shots to lower the armor durability enough, then it started going through just fine. So it appears as if the ammo is working fine. Now that being said, if the ammo is working fine, well, what happened here? This guy just tanked a shitload of bullets. What's going on? And the simple answer is recoil. The Mutant's recoil is just far too random. It has way too much horizontal sway on it, and it makes it so I can almost guarantee you that several of these shots hit either stomach or arms rather than directly into the thorax. So while this guy should have died in 2 to 3 shots, he absorbed like 10 because the recoil on this gun is just unmanageable for really no reason at all. One of the things that I wanted to look at when it came to the Mutant is the cost of the gun, which is off the charts crazy. The Mutant itself, you need to complete some quests, I believe, and it's unlocked from Skier 4, and it'll cost you around 140,000 rubles. In order to mod the gun, that's where it gets pretty crazy, costing 230,000 rubles, give or take, to get the Mutant you're looking at here. And I mean, I was talking about recoil earlier. Naturally, you're going to want to get the recoil as low as possible because it's incredibly unmanageable. So you basically are incapable of gimping out on anything here. You need to go all in. And that ends up being a problem at the end of the day because you just spent 370,000 rubles on this gun. Now, comparatively speaking, you can get an HK off of the flea market for 60,000 rubles, mod it for around 142k, and now you're sitting at a 200,000 ruble gun, give or take. And just look at the performance difference between these two weapons. One is an absolute laser beam, and the other is an RNG-fueled piece of garbage. It's just bad and costs you way more. But I mean, we don't have to stop there. Last video, I talked about the SA-58, and that gun you can get for 50-60,000 rubles off the flea market, mod it for about 190,000, and then your total cost is 250k. So it's 50,000 more rubles than the HK, but now you're firing a significantly better round, and the performance is still arguably better than the Mutant, despite shooting a way better bullet. And I think one of the things that we also have to consider with all of these guns is that the Mutant doesn't shoot very fast. The fire rate for this gun is 650 rounds per minute. And when we compare that to the HK from earlier that I was talking about, that fires at 850 rounds per minute, significantly higher, and the SA-58 fires at 700 rounds per minute, which is still a little bit higher than the Mutant, but when you factor in the better bullet, it's shooting faster and it's shooting a better round. It's almost a no-brainer at that point. I've been talking about ammo a little bit, but let's touch on actual numbers. You can technically craft 7.62 BP, but you need to get to level 45 to do it, which is pretty overkill, and I know a lot of players don't get there. I haven't even gotten there yet. So let's assume you're running the PP round. This thing has 55 damage and 41 pen. It's not a bad bullet per se, but when you take in all the factors later that I'm going to be touching on, it becomes bad. The HK is able to fire the 5.56 M856A1 round, which does 52 damage and 38 pen, which is a worse bullet than the 7.62 PP round, but you have to consider that you can fire way more bullets faster and put them more often on target. So it being a slightly worse bullet doesn't mean really anything at all, because you're hitting more shots. That's not even considering the fact that at level 35 you can unlock a quest which unlocks the M855A1 round, which is better than the PP round, and again, you're firing more of them faster. So at that point, you literally have no excuse. And then of course we have the 7.62 M62 round, which does 79 damage and 44 pen. It shreds basically anything. You're firing it out of the SA-58, which shoots faster than the Mutant and is more controllable than the Mutant. So why do we even have the Mutant? Sometimes I really just have to question Battlestate's design philosophy, because I get it. We had the Mutant in the game and it was broken, overpowered for far longer than it ever should have. But when they were going through and balancing all these weapons, I have no clue what they were thinking with this one. Did they think that people were really going to have so much PTSD from this gun that they needed to make the ammo worse, the fire rate worse, the recoil worse, and the price worse, making it so that there's literally no reason to use it? There is literally zero. None. It looks cool, I guess, if you like the way it sounds, if you have nothing better to do with your money, but then you're just throwing the game. That's literally what you're doing. I was playing with my friends and I had to stop using this and go and use it on my own because I was literally throwing the game by using it and I felt bad. That's mind-blowing. I don't want to make a whole video on the RD704, but it has almost the exact same problems with the Mutant. The only thing that I can really sort of give it is that it doesn't cost as much to modify, And so basically that sort of trivializes the Mutant too. If you have the choice, you might as well run the RD because, I mean, it's still gonna be bad and you still shouldn't use it over an HK, an SA58, or honestly, pretty much literally anything you can pick. But at least it's better than the Mutant, I guess. In-game performance, I don't even think I need to touch on this. I've pretty much already talked about it to death. You feel like you're shooting marshmallows at people, the fire rate is too slow to warrant what you're doing, and the recoil is so unbelievably random that it just feels bad to use. I don't know if a lot of this comes down to me just being spoiled, where I've been using a lot of good guns, so I go to use something mediocre, but I don't think that's what this is. I also don't think that Battlestate was thinking when they actually did this. I don't think they think when they do a lot of changes, but surely they couldn't have been thinking with this one. Because how did we get a gun that's just so obsolete? I don't know. If it were me, I would make this gun an absolute laser beam, because why shouldn't it be? The ammo it's firing is not phenomenal, and the fire rate is lower than a lot of these other guns. So there's no reason that it shouldn't be a laser beam. It should be an assault rifle that's really good at medium to long range because of its low fire rate. But instead, it's horrible at those ranges and horrible up close. So it's just bad everywhere. Anyways, I really don't think there's much else that I can say here. This probably ran a little bit shorter than the last one, just because it's pretty cut and dry. The Mutant is just bad. Don't use it. I really hope Battlestate does their due diligence with this and balances it accordingly. Based off of the previous pistol changes that, thank God, weren't implemented, I don't really have my hopes super high, but hey, you never know. Anyways, if you learned something from this video and enjoyed it, you can leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and see you guys next time. All right, I take it back. Best gun in the game.